Someone just added a very interesting comment in a previous video where he says that wouldn't it be something if we could rid the world of trauma? Wouldn't that be something that is amazing to imagine? This channel is Meditation Amsterdam. My name is Pablo, and today we get to entertain the idea of ridding the world of trauma and some of the ways in which we can make a contribution in that direction and make it a realistic one and make it also an effective one. Whenever we find out that something is at the root of many of the problems that we have, in this case trauma is that something, and whenever we realize that there are techniques, modalities, ways in which we can lessen the impact of this problem and tackle it head on, it is very tempting to start thinking bigger and trying to change the world for the better. And we need to take a step back and try to understand a couple of angles on how we can make a real difference when it comes to trauma. If we take the analogy of trying to boil the ocean, you could claim that it is impossible to try and eliminate trauma from taking place, certainly. And it is also fairly unpractical to heal trauma on a grand scale. Whenever that kind of grand scale, big plans thinking comes into the picture, it is always good to realize that there's a likelihood the thinking mind and the egoic self have taken hold of something that seems perfect or all good or only beneficial and are in some way hijacking it by placing us in time and making this incredible endeavor out of it. If we see the other side of this coin, you could argue that ridding the world of trauma, that your chief contribution to this would be to rid yourself of trauma completely. To do so much emotional work, so much trauma resolution work, to do so much work of self-cultivation that you become yourself clean as a whistle. When you do this, you get to experience a world that's free of trauma. And of course, I don't want that to be a cop-out, because the next question would be, well, that only means that you healed yourself, but the world is still exactly as it is, full of pain. Now, for one thing, that would no longer be your subjective experience, because as you clean yourself out of trauma and also of all the object relations that lead to an egoic mode of living, as I've described in the past, then your perception of the way things are is transformed very, very radically. And you come to realize that what you saw as a world full of strife and pain was nothing but layers of your own mind, which were getting in between perception and the way things actually are. And there's another element to consider in all this, which is the element of how effective are your efforts when you have not cleaned yourself up. You see, we tend to engage in these idealistic efforts led perhaps by ideas about activism or making a difference. And yet, time and again, the old masters tend to remind us of the fact that these efforts will always meet with its counterpart. They will always meet resistance so long as we are coming at the situation seeing it as a problem, so far as we are coming to the situation as an individual that believes that they need to manhandle things in the environment, convince people, move this from here to there, and make that change from the outside. Change attempted from the outside, in the words of Nisargadatta Maharaj, is non-transformative. It is non-transformative to just move things around and place them in a different situation. Real transformation is alchemical in nature. The essence of the situation has transformed from the inside out, meaning that it can only be done within yourself. And when you come to the table otherwise, when you come to the table from the outside in, just as I've described in situations when you try to resolve your own trauma or your own emotional hang-ups, what you're going to meet is you're going to meet a surface tension that doesn't allow that transformation to take place. Whether the bounce happens immediately or whether it happens eventually, the bounce will happen because you came in a non-neutral way to try to impose a change from the outside. That is not real transformation, it's just moving things around or rearranging deck chairs, as the saying goes. So what we're trying to get at here is that if we want to see a world free of trauma, the best way to do it is to release that in ourselves and to then come to the table in a way that is transformative from the inside out in the interactions that we are engaging in. And so I'm trying to escape a little ray of sun that keeps chasing me around here. And so that is the more mature, but also the more effortful and sincere way to go about it, as opposed to naive activism of the kind that will always meet resistance and into which you bring your own hang-ups and your own agendas, which may not even be known to yourself. Agendas of hating the counterparts, the other group, agendas about trying to prove your own self-worth, agendas about your own authenticity, for example, trying to chase being the authentic social warrior, agendas about chasing your own significance, trying to leave behind some sort of legacy. All those are deeply held egoic agendas that will have a negative effect in whatever you set out to do with the best of intentions. And let alone if the agendas or the activism or ways in which we try to go about it are violent or aggressive in nature, such as the war on drugs or the war on terror. Nothing could be as stupid and oxymoronic as a war on terror, because war is terror. And so if that's what you bring to the table, you're going to meet with nothing but terror in return. Whereas the degree of neutrality with which you come to the table in an effort to transform your environment, if you bring that neutrality within, then you will be met with neutrality, and you will be met with no resistance, because there is none inside of you. So can we completely rid the world of trauma? The answer lies within yourself. The answer lies within the degree to which you are willing to undertake the responsibility of transforming yourself to the deepest and most advanced degree possible, to make yourself so clean, so neutral, so harmonious, that is what you bring to the table, whether you are holding a day job, being a bum that lives in your mother's basement at 40 years of age, or a pillar of society, or an activist trying to make active changes in a very enthusiastic and lofty type of way. It is not the activity, it is the quality that will be transformative and effective. As usual, There is a counter argument to every single thing that I say. I'm not trying to advocate against activism or against getting your life together or going out there and making a difference. That's not what is being said here. What is being said here is that if your ambitions are, if you are actually ambitious, if you actually want to transform things in a big way, you have to come to the table already having transformed yourself in an enormously big and difficult way. And that's what's going to make then your activities effective and transformative in the world. So I'm very curious about your take on the topic. And as usual, if you think that these are talks that are beneficial to others, then your liking, your sharing and subscribing make the channel far more visible and available to the world. And it's very motivating to myself. I'll be back with more videos pretty soon. Cheerio. Bye-bye.